Our series title is Loved and Sent. Have you let that sink into who you are over the last few weeks? Or are you like, I haven't been at church for a while, May has been crazy, I haven't seen anything about this yet, I'm brand new to Crosspoint, I don't know what this is about. Well, here, it's very simple. 2 words, very easy to remember, that remind you who you are and what you are called to do. You are loved. You are loved more than you can ever imagine, and you are sent into this world for an eternally important purpose. That's really, truly what it is all about. Right here, let this sink into who you are. I am loved more than I can imagine. I am sent for an eternally important purpose. Do you believe that yet? Has that been part of who you think you are? And I know the last few weeks have not been the easiest for many of us. It's been difficult. For those of you that are celebrating really great things like graduations, I mean, there's celebrations, but then there's the questions. Right? If your child is going to college, it's like, well, how are they going to fare? How are they going to manage? And if you are that child, it's like, how am I going to manage? What is this going to be like? You're excited and frightened all at the same time. If it's a graduation from college, it's like, am I going to get a job? I have a job. What am I going to do there? Am I going to be okay? There's so many questions that pull us in opposite directions, right? Excitement and fear. Sometimes it feels like one and the same, doesn't it? When we know who we are, we can understand what our purpose is through all of these things. When we know who we are, we can let God work through us to do incredible things in this world. So, how does this really take shape here? We are going to stick in Galatians chapter 6 today. If you like to follow along in your Bibles or on your online Bible, however that works, go to Galatians chapter 6. We're going to use the New Living Translation today, and we're going to jump around a little bit in the first 10 verses, because what Paul does in this last chapter of his letter, see, he's writing a letter, right, with all kinds of things. He's helping people understand what life is all about, how to understand who Jesus is, and in the last bit of a letter, he gives people instructions. He says, okay, by the way, I'm going to leave you some wisdom. Here is how you do life. These are the big picture things. We've solved the little things that were bugging you. Now here are the overarching ways that you can, be somebody who follows Jesus in this world and somebody who shows other people who Jesus is. This is how you change the world. He starts with this. Well, he ends with this, but we're going to start with it. Whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially to those in the family of faith. All right, this is where we start. Is this where you start? When you start looking out at the world and what you could do with your life, do you start here? In whatever circumstances I am in and whatever opportunities I have, my main goal is to, what is it? How would you finish that sentence? Paul finishes it with, we should do good to everyone. I think we're tempted to finish that sentence in a lot of different ways. With we should get as much stuff as we possibly can. We should be as comfortable as we possibly can. We should be as happy as we possibly can. All of these things are things that are turned in on ourselves. They focus on me, what I want. And Paul says the exact opposite. If you want to be happy in this world, if you want to have a fulfilling life, if you want all these things that you crave, what do you have to do? You look outward. Whenever we have the opportunity, we do good to everyone. He says especially those in the family of faith, but that doesn't mean only the family of faith. It doesn't mean to create a bubble around it. He says there's a special community there, yes, but he says do good to everyone. Think about the people in your community, the people that you see all the time, the people that you hear about in the neighborhood forums, the people that you live around. These are the people that Paul calls you to work for their good. All right, that's where we start. If that's where we start with how we understand who we are and what we're called to do, does that change your perspective already? Because if that doesn't shake you up a little bit, I don't know what you've been doing. Because typically we are very focused on ourselves. Very focused on ourselves. Let that shake you up a little bit. Think about what that means to do good to everybody whenever you have the opportunity. We're going to start there, okay? When we talk about purpose, there are 3 ways to think about it. First question is, what do I want to do? The second is, what makes me happy? And the third is, what am I called to do? The first one is very basic. It's very simple. It's something a 3-year-old really understands. What do I want to do? I want to hit my sister. So what do? They go and they hit their sister. That's what 3-year-olds do. Do we ever get out of that? In some cases, we should. We learn, we grow. We have to learn to figure that out, to understand that what we want is good sometimes, but many times we have to learn how to control. That's self-control, which is one of the fruits of the Spirit. As the Spirit works through you, He helps you grow in self-control. Imagine what driving on the road would be like if nobody had any self-control, if they just simply did what they wanted. Hey, I want to turn left here across 6 lanes of traffic. Everybody get out of my way. Can you imagine how that would work? Have you driven in Europe? That's kind of how it works. So, what do I want to do is a very basic level question. If you're thinking about the purpose of your life according to this question, well, you might get somewhere. But you're not going to live a life that is truly fulfilled, that gets at that joy that you want to feel, that really kind of makes a legacy that lives after you. You're just going to satisfy those desires that you have in the immediate term. Let's move on from this question, all right? Together, let's say this is not our question we're going to answer when it comes to purpose. Let's go to the next one. What makes me happy? Sounds good, right? Everybody likes to be happy. Your stress levels are lowered. Life feels good. We're heading into summertime. We had a great day of summer in Chicago yesterday, which made a lot of people happy and a lot of people very sunburnt, right? Raise your hand if you got sunburnt yesterday. Yep, okay, it's a pretty fair percentage here. What makes me happy? Is that a good question to ask when we think about our purpose in life? Kind of. Yeah, you don't want to be unhappy all the time because then you're miserable. And who likes to be around a miserable person? I don't like to be around myself when I'm miserable, right? It's not very good. But doing things that make you happy sometimes have adverse effects, right? I mentioned a few weeks ago that at one point in my life, I really enjoyed eating gummy bears, right? And I could sit down, I could eat a pound of gummy bears, and that made me happy for a little while, but that was fleeting, right? What is it for you that makes you happy for a little while, but then maybe you regret it after a little bit? When we do what we want to do and we do what makes us happy, there's still this inconsistency where doing what makes me happy could make somebody else very unhappy. It could have unintended consequences that we don't think about, or it can have consequences down the line in a week or a month or a year that don't make us happy at all. Searching for happiness in the moment is not going to help us look at the deepest question of what am I supposed to do with my life? What is my purpose? It will help us be okay for today, but it won't help us plan long term. It won't set us up for a win in a month or a year or in 10 years or in 30 years. Wants and happiness help us today. If they don't serve a larger purpose, if these are the purposes in and of themselves, we're only going to serve ourselves. That's what our life will be made up of, trying to make ourselves happy by doing what we want. Not the greatest idea for a life well lived. Let's get to the final question. What am I called to do? Can we look at this big question of what is my purpose in life in a larger way? If we look at it in the sense of what am I called to do, that has a totally different connotation. What does it mean to be called to something? Both of these things, wants and happiness, come from within you. But being called to do something seems to indicate that it comes from outside of ourselves, right? We are called to be someone that does X, Y, Z. We are called to be somebody that takes care of whatever it is. Being called comes from outside of you. It becomes an external, reason for you to get up every single day. And eventually, over time, that reason, is much more powerful than simply our wants and our happiness. So what does it mean to be called? Let's talk about this just a little bit. I would put before you today, if you're going to go with me, if we're going to look at this biblically, that when we ask the question of what is my purpose in this world, what am I here to do, we're going to put it in terms of a calling. I think each one of us has a calling. In fact, each one of us has multiple callings. These are ways that we are called to do things in our lives that make a difference in the lives of others around us. Our callings also help us understand who we are. They give us an identity of what we are to do in this world. Calling helps us see that we are not just out for ourselves, which wants and happiness do. Having a calling means that we are here, we exist not just for ourselves, but to be a part of a community, to be part of a world, to help others, to make sure that, everybody is, together. Callings are biblical. And I want to get into this just a little bit in Galatians chapter 6. A couple of verses that come through Paul. He says very specifically, pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done. Many of us identify our purpose and our calling with our actual work, right? Which can be a very good thing until you don't have work anymore. Then you wonder, what am I supposed to do? But your work is very important. What you do with your time to help others, to produce something, to make something of value in this world is very important. And Paul encourages you in this. And he says, do it to the best of your ability. Whatever you do, do it to the Lord, and you will get satisfaction of a job well done. Pay attention to who you are becoming, into what you are creating, into what work you do. Many people think that maybe the church and God really doesn't care what we do for work. It's just a job. It's just a way to make money in this world. It's not true at all. God cares what you do with your time. He cares what you are doing with your work. So do it to the best of your ability. Pay attention, and you will be satisfied in it. Paul follows that up by saying, in all of this, let's not get tired with doing the good that we are called to do. Let's not get tired of doing what is good. So at work, don't get tired of doing what is good. Well, at work is good, but we all know that work isn't all of life, correct? Work is one part of life, and half of our struggle in being adult is figuring out how much of a part of life it is. Right? Is it most of life, or is it just a little bit of life? Well, how do we balance this? I think we can see 4 different areas in our life that take up all of our time and energy and effort, right? You've got your home, which includes not just your home, but the people within it, right? Maybe your home this weekend was such a nice weekend is taking up a lot of your time. Lots of yard work being done, people outside. But it's the people in your house, the people in your family that take up a lot of your energy and time. Your work is also a central part of your life. But also down here, you've got your church family, which Paul says, do good to everybody, especially those in your family of faith, your church community, right? But we can't neglect this last one either. The wider community, right? Our neighbors, our friends, the people we see at the grocery store, everywhere, the people that are around us. They are a big part of our life, whether we want to recognize it or not. These 4 spheres, you can find a calling in each one. When you think about what am I supposed to do with my life, I believe that you can find a calling in each one of these spheres. Think about that for a moment. At work, what calling do you have? What is your position? What are your responsibilities? What are your core competencies that you need to show to make things work right? What is your calling at home? What is your position in a family? How do you make that work? At church, what is your calling there? And in your community, the same thing. In all of these ways, we have a way to make a difference. We have an opportunity to do good in all of these ways. Think about that for a couple moments. Homework, church, and community. They do not exist in a vacuum, though. In this nice little colored Venn diagram, there is a center, isn't there? There's a center where they all come together. Coming from that piece, coming from that center is your identity. It starts with who you are. Who do you know that you are? Are you somebody that's greatly and dearly loved? Are you somebody who God has called for a big purpose in this world? Well, if you believe that, then you can let that expand throughout all of the other areas. But if you believe that you are somebody who is not worth the time of day for anybody else, if you believe that you are somebody who doesn't have any gifts, who is not good at most things, what's going to happen to that as it expands outward? Your purpose, your influence is not going to make a dent in all of these other places. If you believe the lie that you are not worth anything to God or to others, it's going to be hard to find a purpose. The truth is, you are worth an incredible amount. You are worth so much that God sent his son Jesus to serve and to die just for you, so that you would have life, so that you would see that in this very center of your life is someone worth fighting for, is somebody worth dying for, is somebody worth living for. And so now, in this world, in this life, you can radiate his life outward. You can radiate his light outwardly. And you can help others experience his goodness as well, so that in their centers they can see too that they are greatly and dearly loved. All right, purpose, homework, church, community. At the center is who God says that we are. And we let that radiate outwardly to show our purpose. Your calling is undeniably important. You may think that, well, I just have this job, and, I just work a job. I have a family, and I don't know why I was born into this family, but I'm here, and I don't know why. Who you are in all these spheres is undeniably important. It's not about wants or happiness. It's about callings. It's about callings. You are put in a community. You are put in a workplace. You are put in a church. You are put in a family for a reason. And here's what Paul says about it. In Galatians 5, he says that the only thing that counts when talking about how we view our lives, talking about how we view our world, our relationship with God, everything, the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. The way that we approach this world, the way that we approach other people, needs to emulate this. That we believe these very specific truths, that God loves us, that he is with us, that he cares about us, that we are worth something in his eyes because of Jesus, and that faith expresses itself by the way that we love other people. That counts. That helps other people realize that as well. And then that small identity that they used to have of I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, God can't love or love me, it changes, it flips, it grows into I'm worth something. I'm enough because you expressed your faith through love. Paul's onto something here, isn't he? If you think you are too important to help someone, you're fooling yourself. This is in the Bible. This is not Pastor John. You are not that important. Does that hit anybody right in the heart? Oof, right? If you think that who you are is above others, if you think that who you are is too much for everybody else, be reminded and be humbled that not one of us, is so important that we could save ourselves, that we could put ourselves up to Jesus and say, nice job, but I'm going to one-up you. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It can't. We as human beings are in the same place. We are in the same spot. No matter if we were born in the U.S. or born in Uganda, we're in the same spot. We are not too important to help those around us. And this doesn't mean just giving charity. Not at all. This has everything to do with those 4 spheres, like at home, right? You are not too important to help somebody in your house do something and learn something that they don't know how to do. At work, you are not too important to help younger people at work understand how to do things. It is not beneath you to take time out of your day to mentor and coach those who are coming next. In the community, you are not too important to help your community, be a positive community. What time do you put in within your community to help others? Do you put any time in? This is a big question that you need to be able to answer. How are you helping others in your community who can't help you in return? Paul says, when we have opportunity, we do good, and we are not too important to ignore it. All right. Your calling then, what we've seen so far is that your calling is God-given. It doesn't come from within you, it comes from without. God has built you uniquely. He has given you unique gifts and skills and experiences in life through which you can help others, through which, hopefully, through humility, you realize that you are not too important to do. Your calling is not for your good, but for the good of the people around you. This is a key thing, especially when we understand who Martin Luther was, of the famous Lutheran name, right? We're a Lutheran church. When he talked about doing good works for others, he made a clear point by saying, doing good works may make you feel good, but that is not the point. And don't make that the point. Don't do good works in order to feel good. Do good works for the benefit of your neighbor. We do good works because our neighbor needs us to. They need it, so we do it. That's understanding that we are the same as our neighbor and that God gives us a calling to do so. The final part is important because this sets apart kind of the purpose element of this, that our callings are eternally significant. Do not kid yourself. The good that you do in this world carries on into eternity. Every good thing that you do to help others helps them see who Jesus is. It helps them understand that they, too, are greatly and dearly loved. Whether you do this at home, or at work, or at church, or in your community, all of those things help others see who God is. Your callings are God-given for the good of others and eternally significant. So the last question is, well, okay, Pastor John, what's my calling? How do I discover this? All right, I'm going to show you a little chart here in a second, and we're going to get to that. Jesus talks about this in Mark chapter 10. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must become your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be the servant of all. See, Paul wasn't making this stuff up about not being too important, about serving our neighbors. He was simply going off of what Jesus told his disciples directly, that the most important person in the kingdom of God is the one who serves. Not just serves the people that are closest to them in their home, or serves just at their church for the people that are like them, that they like, that worship the same God, but the one who serves everyone without discriminating, without saying, not this one, yes, this one. We serve all, so that all will know who God is. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. That is the thing. That is the huge motivation factor. That is the realization that we are greatly and dearly loved. All right, here's a chart. You ready for this? If you're at home, screenshot this on your phone. This is a great way to discover your calling. All right, symbols and words. Here we go. Ready for this? Outwardly, but near you. What is your context? Where do you live? Right? What's your neighborhood like? What is your family like? What's everything around you? People that you see each and every day, each and every week, what are they like? What are you like? What is the purpose that you think you have? What do you have to give to the world? When you look inwardly, when you look in on yourself, what do you see? What do you find? In each of these boxes, keep asking these questions. What am I all about? What's near me? What is my world like? Not what is the world like. There's always kind of a rational answer, but what is your world like? How do you see the world? What do you experience in the wider world? And the last thing is within yourself, but used far away. What are your gifts and talents? What has God built into you? How has he helped you and developed you into somebody that is unique and special? And I encourage you to think about these boxes as well as you think about, home and work and church and community, and see where God has called you, what he has called you to do, what he has made you interested in, what you're passionate about. And in each of these boxes, maybe jot down a couple of notes on each one. If I were doing this on a big board, I'd have big sticky notes that we'd write ideas on and all this, put a bunch of sticky notes up in each quadrant. And the goal would be is to see where the lines of convergence are. What are the things that pop up in each of these categories, in each of these quadrants? What are the lines you can draw between them? And I think that when you do that, when you see that at work, you'll start to see exactly where your calling is. You see, this is all about understanding who you are, what you are gifted in, for the benefit of the people around you and of the world. In this way, we can see exactly how God is calling us. We can discover a few ways that he calls us to be unique in this world. All right, you didn't know you were going to have homework today, but this is the week that you have homework. Take this. Make this real. Take some time with it. Jot down some notes in your notebook. Put this up on a board, however you choose to do it. Think about this. Do some analyzing on it. Write down some ideas and see where it takes you. In this, hopefully, you can get some clarity on what your callings are, so that when you have these questions, what am I supposed to do? What is my purpose in this world? You can have an answer for that. You can have a statement for that. You can have a story for that. All right, our callings are God-given. They're eternally important. They utilize our gifts and our skills. They are for home and work, church, and the community. And we can discover them. It'll take a little bit of time, but we can find it. We can make it real.